Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's demo of Armor Anywhere with Endpoint Detection and Response. I'm June Nijar, your host for today's broadcast. Before we start, I'd like to go over some webinar housekeeping tips. Everyone's currently on mute and will remain so throughout the recording. Please use the chat window to inform us of any audio or technical issues. If you experience sound issues, we recommend calling in via phone instead of using your computer's audio. Throughout the demo, please use the question feature to ask about any of the topics being discussed. And today's demo is being recorded. A link will be sent to all registrants post-event. Again, my name is June Nijar, and I'm a product marketing manager here at Armor. I've been in the cybersecurity space for a little over 7 years, and I've worked with organizations large and small to solve complex security problems and help make security a business enabler. With us today, we have Armor's VP of Engineering, Robert Rea. Robert brings 17 years of experience and is responsible for architecture and development of Armor's world-class cloud security and compliance platform. We also have Armor's senior software developer, Yusef Saraby. Yusef is a senior team lead with 20 years of experience in IT and dev. 5 of those years have been with Armor. Robert will walk us through what Armor Anywhere EDR is and discuss some use cases, while Yusef will be demoing Armor Anywhere EDR features and capabilities. So if you know Armor, you know whether your data is stored on a private, public, hybrid, or multi-cloud environment, we have the technology and security expertise to keep you safe from intrusions and theft. We do that while helping you comply to major regulatory frameworks. We launched the EDR feature on March 2nd with the purpose of extending security protection and compliance to your endpoint devices in a single solution. So before we get into the demo, Robert will walk you through what EDR, endpoint detection and response, is. With that, Robert, the stage is yours.
Awesome, thanks, June. Hey everybody, thank you for spending some time with us. Really excited to run through this demo with you. Demos are always exciting for me because we really get to show off the nitty-gritty of things. And so I'll do kind of a high level before we jump into it, and then kind of set the stage of what Yusef's going to walk us through. But as you guys know, we launched EDR. If you look at what Armor's been doing over the past year, we've continued to expand the coverage we have for your environments. We had our workload security protection through Armor Anywhere. We had a cloud security posture management that was launched last October to really cover that public cloud. And now we've got EDR. So EDR is really covering your endpoint devices. And when I use that word, sometimes it does kind of question, what does an endpoint device mean? Very simple, that's your laptop. That's that thing that most people are carrying around with them everywhere they go, whether you're going to the coffee shop, you're going into work. With COVID going on now, a lot of people have taken these home. And at Armor, we view that as the terrain that we're trying to protect or secure. And so I continue to expand that to bring that out to you. And so this one gives us a really great opportunity to talk about how we can secure and keep those devices compliant, if that's in scope for you, wherever they are, as well as covering that other part of your landscape. So for us, let's walk through this real quick. What does it mean to quickly detect and stop advanced threats across your distributed endpoints or your laptops or your user base of your environment? For that, we've got a couple things. One is we're leveraging Carbon Black. That allows us to do a couple things with that. You've got next-gen AV installed that will block and quarantine antivirus on the malware devices on the box. You also have in there behavior anomaly detection with that. So those that we can't detect and stop right away will have detections that will flow out and into our system, which Yusef will demo here shortly. You've got simplified endpoint security management with SOC tuning, policy modifications, and guided remediation. Really what that means is you've got the Armor Security Operations Center behind you. So when you're launching EDR, you're launching Carbon Black on your environment, it's coming with a security policy that we've already established that gives you a really good baseline for security and protection in your environment. Also, you've got policy modifications. So if you have questions or you need to fine tune that, you have the capabilities within the portal to do that yourself. And then guided remediation. So you'll see as we go through this demo, as we detect an incident, not only will we notify you of it, but we can walk you through the steps for remediation on top of it. And Armor as well, in that integration, has some capabilities to do auto remediation or auto containment for you if you set that in your environment, such as a ransomware flowing through your systems. Last one is gaining visibility into all your endpoint security data for forensics and threat hunting. So we are giving you access to Carbon Black itself, which is integrated to Armor for the security and the SOC components. But here you've got a great area to be able to go in and see all of your devices if you wanted Carbon Black, or do any additional threat hunting should you desire. And the last one is really address AV compliance and long-term data storage. So with Armor, we allow you to have additional log storage as all of this data flows into our data lake if you need to meet compliance and regulatory items on your endpoints. And then AV as well is often a common necessary item for compliance as we go through it. Last one is we'll jump into the demo here. Yusuf's going to do a couple things. We'll show you just how you see it in AMP, our Armor management portal, how you can purchase it, what that sign-up process kind of looks like. And then we'll talk through how you get installed. How do you deploy that across your environment? And then the last one will be, showing you how we store that in our data lake, some of the ways that we parse and enrich that data. And then the last one is going through an incident. What does that look like? What does it mean to have the SOC behind you? So with that, I'll turn it over to Yusef and we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yusef Saraby, and I am the team lead for the Armor Anywhere. And I have been in the IT field for 20 years. Throughout my career, the way for securing your environment and protection has improved, and it seems like at the same token, like the elevation from attackers and hackers, they changed their game as well. To attack maybe like the endpoints, and instead of like with the servers being more secure, it seems like they're targeting more like maybe the endpoints, like laptops and everything for their attacks. So with no further ado, I'll go ahead and share for you like how the whole experience is like, starting with the endpoint detection and response from the point of signing up. So once you log into the account that you have, that you're interested in purchasing Carbon Black for, you'll be greeted with this screen here. It has a lot of information about what the EDR, and it has a lot of different links to like introductions and information about this product. From here, click on the Let's Get Started option. There is a certain form that has to be filled. For example, the number of agents. So the least number of agents that you can buy is 25 agents. And then other information like the address and email address. And then from here, you can pick the admin user that will have access to Carbon Black. So upon completing the provisioning of Carbon Black, the admin user will be invited to Carbon Black, and they'll have access to the policy changes if they want to restrict like USB. But we apply our own default policy that has been approved by the SOC team. And they continue to monitor and make changes and enhancements to it, but at the same time, if there's additional tweaks that you want to do, quarantine or contain or uncontain an asset, you still have that privilege, but our SOC will definitely provide you with that assistance as needed. So I'll switch with that to an account that already have Carbon Black already enabled on. And from here, this is how the page looks like. It tells you like the information, like who the person that granted access to the Carbon Black, number of licenses information, and it gives you instructions like how do you want to install this on on your assets, and more links and documentations to that extent. So as a prerequisite, you have to have the Armor agent installed in your asset, and the Armor agent is our orchestration security tool. We use it here to install the EDR, and so it will allow us basically to run the CLI commands, and we can also do a fleet management with our portal through something like we have built. It's called like the toolbox, and from here the toolbox and CLI commands enable us to manage all the security services through DevOps practices. And so the CLI is something that if you want to integrate into your CI/CD pipelines, or the toolbox, if you want to go ahead and basically orchestrate like your fleet management through our portal. So let me go ahead and go through like the toolbox and basically walk you through like what that experience is. So by running the toolbox, let's say that you have 50 assets that you want to install endpoint, or you want to take a specific action, install availability, any specific, you'll be able to run it in mass on your remote for your remote users. Especially with now with COVID, everyone's working from home. You're not going to have the ability to just plug into these endpoints and be able to run commands, and that's going to be tedious. The users might not have the experience, so your admin might be able to kind of run that functionality for you. So from here, you select like endpoint detection and response, and you select the different operations that you want to run. So let's say that you have endpoint detection is now running. You can upload the diagnostic files. You can run installation and do the uninstallation commands from here. The uninstall is password protected, because you don't want to have and each password is unique per asset. It is important to have EDR is protected and not have users remove it, because they're going to basically leave their assets as being vulnerable for attacks and what have you. And the same set of commands, then you can run them as through our CLI commands. So from here, if I do, and I can do help, it will show me the commands that are available to me. And from here, I already have the Armor agent already installed. So if I want to know information about the specific asset, so we have show UB, and this is still just the core instance ID that we have. So from here, I will go ahead and install Carbon Black on this asset. I'm going to do EDR. So upon installation, it will print out for you the host ID, which is kind of like Carbon Black refers to it as the sensor ID. You can take that ID, you can log into Carbon Black and be able to view more information, like you can dig into that specific sense, like that agent, see like the events for it from Carbon Black. All of that information will flow into Armor's through Armor's, like, the event forwarder will send them to our data lakes and into our pipelines, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But that's kind of crucial to kind of see like that specific. If you want to just go to Carbon Black and do additional investigations or policy enhancements, you'll be able to do that from that ID. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and simulate like ransomware attacks. I have a script already installed. Added to this machine, and I keep liking to do this. So with this script, what it tries to do, it tries to delete the shadow copies of on your machine, and that's what normally like the ransomware try to take advantage of, and that's one of the policies like in our SOC have improved to kind of block that certain activity from it. And another thing that, so for example, like if you try to go onto a download, like a program like FileZilla, it's considered like a grayware software. So probably want to go and block it. So if upon installation, you'll see that Carbon Black blocked it, and pop the message here is potentially harmful. So let me go ahead and do this. So the same thing, like, with an ICAR, different type of attacks, you'll see that Carbon Black is kind of stopping them due to the policies. that's being applied to the assets. We have a default template. Upon each time you provision running the commands, it will go ahead and apply that policy to your assets to make sure it is secure. So right now, these assets, these events, it should start flowing. There's two different types of events that we'll be getting from Carbon Black. Either they're events or an alerts. The events, they will flow into our data lake, and you can access the data lake from by going to the security, and you can see them in our data lake if you click on the log search. Copy this link. So all your alerts and events, you'll be able to see them in here. So once this loads. So you can see that's the account number that it is. This asset is associated with it. This is the specific a unique identifier we call like the core instance ID that's tied into this specific assets. And this should show us all of the events flowing from all the different systems. And from here, it will show you all of the details that is coming for that specific asset, like the account number, you know, let me see, like what exactly the event that got fired and more information about it. And it's, all of this is like following the ECS format as a guidance. And if in the case of an alert happens from there, let me go ahead and go back to, and all of the alerts will flow into incidents. And so this is the information that will flow from Event Forwarder into, from Carbon Black into our system, and it's going to go into our SIEM and SOAR. From there, it's going to be, that event is going to be labeled either as a detection or an incident. So for detection, basically the SOC is kind of like, when I notify by it, there is no additional action that need to be done, kind of like, you know, just kind of pay attention to it. Versus if it's an incident, and a ticket will be generated, they will look into that specific alert, dig into it, and see exactly, like, you know, give you more instructions, information to make sure your environment is safe. So this is an example of one of the events, and I'm gonna click on show more. So it tells you the category for it is a threat, and all of the same information will exist in the ticket as well, and kind of give you a little bit more information about that specific attack that happened and what have you. So let me see. Okay, and so that's basically from here. So right now is like, you having an EDR on your system is great, but at the end of the day, you need to have what's the name of it? Like, sorry, like having, you know, the EDR is good, but then if, you know, you need to have the SOC, somebody who's going to always improve and enhance your policy posture. You know, just, it's basically like being at your house and you have your front door is closed, but it's not locked. You're basically, it gives you a little bit of maybe a feel of security, but it's actually, you're very vulnerable. Somebody can come in and take actions. You need somebody who's going to monitor your environment 24/7. Need to continue to enhance the tickets. They're going to take all of this telemetry information and make sure you're in good posture. And with that, back to you, June.
Yusef, thanks, thanks so much for walking us through the demo of features and capabilities within EDR. I wrote down a couple of them. I think it was accessing and installing the EDR features, You've got a taste of examples of blocking some grayware, right? Stopping software installations or unapproved software installations, and then accessing EDR telemetry within the Armor data lake, and then alert flow from Carbon Black into our platform. So appreciate you walking through that demo and just kind of showcasing what that looks like. Now, if the audience here, if you like the presentation and you want to learn more, what you can do is actually request a personalized demo to walk through some more fine-tuned, refined use cases that might be more specific to your organization. And I'd actually encourage you to check out armor.com/resources. There are white papers, technical briefs, links to blogs, ways to get just additional content if you're really interested in learning more about Armor's EDR capability. So at this time, we'd like to take a few questions from the audience. If you have not submitted your questions, please use the question or chat function. While you're submitting your questions, I do want to ask all the attendees to participate in a quick survey that will be sent after the broadcast, where you can provide us a little bit of feedback and some insights. Also, if you think about a question once the broadcast is closed, you can submit those questions in the post-broadcast survey as you rate the webinar for the day. If you'd like to attend another upcoming webinar or additional events, you can sign up at armor.com/events. So with that said, let's jump right into questions. So one of the questions that came up are the user accounts coming from Active Directory, or are they separate in our tooling?
So the user accounts within AMP, our Armor management portal, those are all coming from Active Directory. The Carbon Black side, where we give you that admin user access, that's coming from Carbon Black. So you can have different user management there to access those capabilities.
Awesome. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah. The key distinction, just to highlight that one more point, is that the reason we kind of have that separated there is also gives you the capability to have a different group, because a lot of times you may have a different IT group managing your endpoints versus your AWS environment or your Armor Complete environment. So that's kind of where we get into wanting to make sure that that group of people you can manage separately in that instance.
Absolutely. So another question is, can I collect operating system logs from the workstation endpoints?
Yeah, so we do have that capability. It's our login data management product that allows you to collect logs from it. We have the basic eventing that is coming from EDR and stored into our data lake. But if you want other specific OS logs, like the Windows security or application ones, those can be set up separately through our login data management product. The Armor agent, though, that orchestrator can orchestrate the installation of those on those endpoints.
Let's see here. Got a few questions, trying to make sure I can thumb through all of these. So what are the response capabilities?
So there's a few of them. So for Armor, we have an auto containment piece, which really we flag as those really critical ones. I think our main example is ransomware, where you have the ability to opt in those endpoints into that, which is if we detect ransomware on the device, we'll go ahead and auto quarantine it, which means that that network connectivity will only be to Carbon Black so that we can do any of the live response pieces, which that is really being able to execute a few commands on it to do diagnostics and understand what's going on there. Within Carbon Black itself, you have the ability to kick off that containment by hand or execute those live response queries as well through that product. So you have both of those options. One is if you have anything you need to do yourself in the environment, like the threat hunting capabilities, can be done in Carbon Black. And then with our SOAR, we have those that are automated based on the severity as to what we'll do, whether it'll be create an incident or detection in our portal, or go so far as to auto contain that device for you.
Awesome. And is there a minimum number of agents for purchase?
Yeah, that's 25 licenses is the minimum amount of licenses. And as far as, like, there's one more question about the Carbon Black and backend. Can they plug in their own SIM? And like QRadar, they do have Carbon Black connector that you can connect and get the events flowing that way if you want to.
And so I see a couple questions here related to the impact of the agent to the desktop resources. Can you speak a little bit to that, Robert or Yusef?
Yeah, so this is going to be the Armor agent, super minimal. Impact to there is it's less than 6 megs of memory usage, pretty much 0% CPU. As far as the Carbon Black itself, a lot of that's going to be dependent on the policies that are applied to it. And with our base policy, it's fairly standard to leverage, 5 to 10% of CPU. Memory is so far, we've seen a pretty good footprint on that being manageable, so pretty negligible on both sides of it. But you do still need that buffer of headroom in order to perform those activities. A lot of that, those very workload specific or endpoint specific. In this case, though, we've seen pretty minimal impact from our base policy, running around that 5 to 10% range of usage if it's a heavy used box.
Great. So there's mention of remediation and rollback. And I'm curious if that's referring to another question, so I apologize. But yeah, I mean, can you speak to remediation and rollback on the endpoint?
Yeah, so the remediation side will be where our SOC is there to guide you through. We detected an incident, open up a ticket with you, and that's where we'll work through those remediation steps, whether it's, we recommend that you run a full AV scan or that you go and uninstall the software. We need to re-image this machine based on these activities. Obviously on the endpoint side, it's a little different than a full workload, but that's really where it is critical, and that value of the Armor SOC being there to step through, what to do next and kind of how that situation occurred.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it. Let's see, I do see some questions in regards to getting one-off presentations. And so, yeah, we'll definitely reach out to you and try to see how we can coordinate and schedule those one-off presentations. I think we are getting to the end of our allocated time for the purpose of this webinar. So appreciate all the different questions and just the inquiries in general. Just want to go ahead and say thank you to everyone for joining us today, and thank you, Robert, thank you, Yusef, for your time and your expertise. I encourage everybody to visit armor.com for details on our audit-ready compliance products and our EDR capabilities, and we're looking forward to seeing you next time on one of our next webinars. So appreciate everybody showing up today. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.